All right, and here we are on the bottom of page 1 for section 2.6. And we've got a try here, so we're going to start right off with a pause. So we're trying to graph the inequality x is less than 5, both on a number line and interval notation. So hit the pause button and then come back when you are ready for checking your answer. Okay, on a number line with 0 as a reference, there's 5, there's positive infinity and negative infinity. We want less than 5, so it'd be a parentheses at 5 and everything to the left of that. And in interval notation, what that'd look like is our two endpoints are negative infinity, comma, positive 5. Can't close on an infinity, so it's always open. And then also an open parentheses on 5. That would be the interval notation of this number line. It's a way to type the visual version of the solutions. What makes that true? All numbers less than 5. Okay, and they just talk about on page 161 just the difference between parentheses and brackets, when you'd use it, when you'd not. Important thing is parentheses are always used for infinity or negative infinity. Okay, and then let's move on to getting us ready to solve inequalities. And here's the big key to this, is that recall, and that's of course code for if you haven't got this in your memory, learn it quickly. This is an important piece that will get you to the next level. Multiplying or dividing by a negative changes the sign. The answer is the opposite sign. So if you had a positive times a negative, you multiplied by that negative, your answer is negative. So went from positive to being a negative. If you had a negative times a negative, your answer is positive. So your answer, starting point, negative number, multiplied it by a negative, you ended up at a positive. So it changes the sign. When you change the sign of something, that means it moves it to the opposite side of the number line. Changing a number's sign moves it or flips it to the opposite side of the number line. Okay. So if you have a positive 5 and you were to multiply that by a negative 3 or divide, okay, it could be a division as well, because the rules are the same for positive or multiplying and dividing. If you have a 5 and you were to multiply or divide by a negative, whatever your answer would be over in the negative. Okay, so if I have a positive times or divide by a negative, my answer is negative. Okay, so it flips it. So if you have an alligator, a hungry alligator, that's already saying, hey, I want to eat that value of 5. If you're saying x is less than 5, and all of a sudden I multiply or divide that number by a negative value, that value is going to flip sides. That alligator is not just going to stare at empty space and decide he's not hungry anymore. That alligator will follow the path of that number that's moving to the other side, and the hungry alligator will follow it. Okay, so if I were to multiply this by a negative 1, what happens is that I get a negative 5 here, and I would say x is greater than negative 5. Okay, now this is a very simplistic description here, but you get the idea. The hungry alligator flips too. Okay, because it still wants to focus on what it was intending to eat in the first place. Okay, so that's the main piece that you want to hold on to for when you solve inequalities, because when it says to solve each inequality, graph the solution set on the number line, the goals and steps from 2.1 and 2.2 and 2.3 for how to solve an equation, okay, meaning something that has an equal sign, those steps are the exact same with one exception, okay, and that is that if you multiply or divide, either one, if you multiply or divide both sides of the inequality, so both sides of what you're trying to solve, by a negative number. So if you multiply or divide both sides by a negative number, the inequality flips. You flip the inequality. So I'm going to get another piece of paper here because I'm running out of space. So let me grab something really super quick. Okay, just going to slide this underneath here. So what I wrote there is you flip the inequality. What does that mean? If you had less than, it becomes greater than. If you have greater than, it becomes less than. If you had less than or equal, it becomes greater than or equal. If you have greater than or equal, it becomes less than or equal. You flip it. Okay, anytime you multiply or divide by a negative number when you're solving an inequality, that's the key piece that's different than the regular solving an equation with an equal sign. Everything else is going to stay the same. So a lot of this, as we do our examples on the next page, sound very familiar. There's just this one exception. Okay, that's what we're going to practice. All right, see you there.